Hey everybody, and welcome to 1348 EX VOTO, a game so incredibly good that it already had game journalists making articles like this one, written by an award-winning journo, trying to hype it up as the best medieval game of 2026. And the sole reason why they said so was literally just because it was going to feature gay female knights. That's it. I may follow up on this article and some other interesting social media and games journalism related things on a future video further covering things that happened around the game, but today, on this one, I just want to focus on the game itself. Is it really the best damn medieval game of the year? Is it really that big of a disaster? Let's dive... Actually, I mean, yeah, we're diving in right now, but there's no point in saying this in the intro, like, yeah, it's pretty bad, guys, okay? I'm not gonna lie, this game is awful. It's probably worse than you even thought, but anyway, let's break it down. Timestamps to the various chapters of the video will be listed below, so without further ado, let's get in there. So what is 1348 EX VOTO? Well, let me put it this way, long story short, after pouring around 8 hours into this game, the truth is that yes,
it's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
It is as big of a disaster as some people have been making it out to be. In fact, it's even worse, because it betrays even the modern audience that it set out to appeal to. Since the very beginning of this year, this game has gone out of its way to market itself as a game for the modern audience type of people out there.
I am no knight.
No. No, you're more than that.
Oh! That's not fair.
The world is not fair. Life is hard for peasants. For women, nonetheless.
Boring!
Bia.
But look at me. But look at me.
I won't go through the whole context because I already did it before in another video and it'll fit better in that future video covering the situation surrounding the game. But long story short, this was a game that threw a jab at another medieval inspired game named Knight's Path for not including any LGBTQ+ elements in it. Basically, a game that is not catering to the modern audience. So a whole controversy was brewing around this Knight's Path game, and EX VOTO took advantage of the situation to separate itself from that type of game and use it as a bit of a springboard to come out and signal to the modern audience that this is for them. This is a game that doesn't shy away from the agendas that Knight's Path was refusing to attach itself to. With that, this game got labeled with the moniker of Medieval Lesbian Knight Game, and it totally owned up to it too. Everyone did, in fact. I showed this on a previous video, which is an example of an artist calling it that. We also had scores of supporters in the comments too, owning it as well, of course, using that label as, a positive thing, and of course game journalists did as well. Later on, they even released this video of the actresses for the characters in the game talking about it, and they mentioned how this is an LGBTQ+ story that they really wanted to tell.
Historically accurate, so back off, haters, haters of the bowl cut. I really passionately want to tell LGBTQ+ stories. There's lots about the character that I've never had the opportunity to play before.
Ayata, she's slightly genderqueer in that, like, people mistake her for being a boy and a man, and she's like, yeah, great.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the fuck are your parents?
But as it turned out, it isn't even in the game. This game ended up being a disappointment even to the very small subset of people that they pointed to and said, hey, yeah, you guys, this game here, this is a special game just for you. I don't want to spoil the surprise right at the start of the video, so I'll hold off for now, but yeah, what happens throughout the story, and especially what happens at the very end, is the polar opposite of what people were expecting out of these two characters. And I honestly just want to thank the developers for this, because honestly guys, I thought this game was just going to be boring, you know? I thought this was going to be just a very dry and monotonous experience with Mexican telenovela dialogue that is forgettable. Basically the worst type of game to make videos of, because there's nothing to point out. Everything just blends into a big meh, you know? But instead, it ended up being so bad that I'm actually going to have fun making this video. I already had several moments along the way where I was laughing my ass off. I really need to get proper internet so I can stream some of these games for you guys. And when it comes to what I personally expected, the gameplay, level design, and combat somehow ended up being so much worse than what I thought was going to happen after playing through the demo. It's just a very janky, lazy, bare bones foundation with next to nothing to play for. The most basic things that could have been done here to make the game more interesting, more engaging, or at least more promising, where you kind of look at a game and you see a rough blueprint, but you go, well, this sucks, but at least there's potential, so maybe their next game will be good. You know what I mean? You can see it in certain smaller budget games that were good or at least decent, but rough around the edges, such as Technomancer, for example. Little seedlings of potential hampered by lack of skill or budget or overambition. Yeah, none of that is present here. Small things that could have been done to show that these people are serious about making a game were totally skipped. And with the story being so bad and pointless, so devoid of easy devices that they could have used to emotionally manipulate players into caring at least about these two little hoes, the result of this game is just a big, boring, janky slog that makes me wonder what the hell was even the goal here. But enough setup though. Let's get to the game itself, and then we can talk more about this and the studio that made it in the end. Let's get the gameplay out of the way first, because we need to save the best for last. The story segment is definitely going to make me lose it, so best to keep my composure for now. The only thing this game has going for itself is the visuals. Oh, there's still problems with it, lack of environmental detail, lack of liveliness and clipping being the major ones, but they're just nitpicks. In general, the game looks very pretty, and this is thanks to the Unreal Engine 5 and, of course, the good work that the artist did at using it to its fullest to draw out beautiful vistas along our journey. To the point where it even caused a disconnect between how the game looks and how it plays, plus how bad the story is. Sadly, EX VOTO ends up being a perfect example of why I get mad the moment I see the Unreal Engine 5 logo come up on a screen. The hate for this engine is nothing new by now. It tends to be heavily criticized because of poor optimization or because of the sameness when it comes to visual identity. The truth is that these things are fixable so long as developers put in the work. And specifically to EX VOTO, there's hardly a game here. You walk, you pick shit up from the ground, you fight people with a very basic combat system, and then the furthest example of complexity you have in this game is jumping over small gaps in the environment and environmental puzzles that are exclusively about pushing something somewhere so you can climb on it. That's it. And yes, the optimization is crap. Optimization is achievable, interesting gameplay features are programmable, and unique visual styles are possible, but sadly, too many developers out there don't bother to do a damn thing to optimize their games or develop anything interesting for the gameplay features or their visual identity. They just go for the default standard UE5 slop template, and it results in too many games like this existing, where we basically have a shitty, low-skill, low-quality game, but made in Unreal Engine 5 because that way it looks like AAA industry schlock. This is why I hate the overbearing presence of this engine. There's a lot of bad games out there, but usually you'd be able to spot them right away from screenshots and they wouldn't be given the spotlight that EX VOTO got, with game journalists promoting it on posts that reached way over 6 million views. You'd be able to see the low skill and low quality expressed visually, and then you could look into it further and decide based on the price. And I know that you guys watching right now wouldn't fall for that, like of course you're in the know. Maybe just looking at the character would be enough for you to be like, oh hell no. But there's a lot of normies out there that can't say the same thing. With EX VOTO and other games like it, from a normie perspective, you can't see shit. It disguises itself as something that is of quality. From screenshots alone, gamers are more likely to buy and play this game instead of, for example, the far superior Metal Garden, which is an independent atmospheric FPS game that I made a full breakdown of right here. I'll leave a link in the top comment and the description if you're interested. This is because screenshots of Metal Garden look like this, while screenshots of EX VOTO look like this. But while Metal Garden had me stop and think about its themes, EX VOTO had me paralyzed with cringe. The irony, by the way, they're both made with the same engine. It's just that Metal Garden has actual art direction, catered to what kind of atmosphere, mood and story it wants to transmit to the players. EX VOTO looks good visually, and as a bonus, it's set in Italy, and there's some locations that are really well drawn out in the game. But nowadays, so many games have this exact default photorealism look that they don't even stand out. In fact, hey, if you're in it for the Italy setting alone, you can just play Mafia: The Old Country. It's set in Italy, it looks beautiful, and at least it has a game to play with actually good acting and directing. Plus a better story, although admittedly EX VOTO doesn't exactly represent a high bar, but at least the good looks in this game are, you know, universal. In EX VOTO, you look at the environment and it's like, wow, that's pretty. Then you look at your character or the side characters and this happens.
Ah, look at the top of his head. Look at his lips.
Really, the only high bar that EX VOTO has is the invisible walls that litter the whole goddamn place. Back when I played the demo, I was left with the impression that we'd be able to have side paths to cut out the linearity in the game, because there were these two side paths that we could take in town to pick up some garbage, you know, some papers for skill points and food for healing. But this ended up being barely a thing. You can barely walk in this damn game. Every area you pass through is ripe with invisible barriers, preventing you from exploring what little there is to explore. Sometimes I just wanted to walk over to the edge of a cliff, like in this clip here, but I couldn't do it. It just doesn't let you. And it's like, why not? It's the dumbest thing. See what I mean when I said the game fumbles even the tiniest things that could have been done to make the game look like it has some potential? Like, just let me cross here. Just let me go over there by those rocks and look at the view. This is another example here, and an even worse one. All I want to do is, instead of walking down the stairs and turning left, I want to just jump over the side. That's it. That's all I want to do. I just want to take a shortcut. Instead of walking down and turning left, I just want to jump directly to the, to the left side there. But I can't do it, because even the goddamn stairs get invisible walls in this game. If you want to perfectly encapsulate how slow and boring and restrictive this game is, this clip does it perfectly. Another thing that was very frustrating, and that you may notice in some clips, is I like to look around. If I'm walking down a path and I see a rock or a big tree or whatever off the beaten path, or for instance in this area where we have basically a lot of ruined homes covered by foliage, I like to sniff around and try to find stuff. But this game doesn't even incentivize you to do that, because there's barely anything to find anywhere. And what there is completely devoid of any meaning. Trinkets are the best thing that you can run into because they give you big gameplay boosts. Second to that is sword parts. They offer small gameplay boosts to your sword swings, but I didn't even bother to experiment because the boosts are very small and the game was already too easy anyway. They just make an easy game even easier for the modern audience types, I guess, I don't know. Besides that, you have treasures, which are totally useless in game, and what they provide is a little description of whichever saint or whichever type of thing they are related to. It reads like a Wikipedia page though, there's nothing that adds to the world or story itself. I'll develop on this in a second. Then all there is the aforementioned papers to unlock skills and food for healing. But there's too few of it. Most of the times that I foolishly took it upon myself to look around the little environments that the developers carefully crafted for no reason, I was left with nothing to find, and every single time I felt stupid for it, because here I am, bored out of my skull, not wanting to play this game but trying to give it a fair shot, envious as Kata, who finished the game in like 5 hours. 5 hours, and this dude was free of the curse, and instead, here I am, looking around corners and shit, finding nothing, and then turning around and heading back to the main path like an idiot. And the worst part is, they could have actually added more stuff. It would have fit, it would have been useful, but it's yet another example of these developers not bothering with the goddamn game that they're making and missing easy W's. Throughout the game you come across a few interesting characters, at least more interesting than the two retards the game is centered in. One of them is this lord guy you meet early in the game. He's living all alone in a keep, his whole place is deserted, he has dead horses in his stables and a bunch of rotten food at his table. And he's just weird, dude, okay? He looks like he smells like shit and is dying from like the smell, like his own smell is killing him. This dude reveals to us that the bandits that we've been looking for used to be his men, but they abandoned him due to the pestilence. So he has us make a vow to him as well. So he has us take a vow to go after his traitors and eliminate them as revenge. Another interesting character you find later on is this weird priest dude and his whole faction of religious zealots who are going around the countryside cleansing the land. And by cleansing the land, I mean they're torturing people, crucifying them, and burning down their shit. Later on you meet another interesting character, which is an old man that apparently saves you, and there's something else going on between you. I think maybe he knew our character's father, or actually no, that's not it. I think he was just a knight, an old knight, and he fought in wars and shit. Some other stuff is implied in this scene, but none of it is ever followed up on. Additionally, our father and mother, who died during the pestilence, were lords. I believe our father was a knight. He knew how to fight and all that, so you can add them to the interesting list as well. And lastly, the parents of Bianca, the other character, the blonde one, the Jennifer English character, are also interesting. Bianca shows a lot of scorn for both of them, especially for the father or father figure, whatever, which could perhaps have explained why she is such a batshit insane unhinged moron. All of these things are totally abandoned, by the way. They're completely underdeveloped, they are just cut out of the game. The devs want us to care for these characters and for this story and these circumstances, but they do nothing to flesh any of this out. But more on that later in the story section. The point is that all of these missing things could have been fleshed out by the developers adding something to collect that would fill the gaps in forms of messages, letters, books, or even just basic codex entries, thereby filling the world a little more, giving you an incentive to look around and giving us something to, give a shit about when it comes to these characters and story. 3 birds with 1 easy stone that wouldn't even force these poor little independent developers. We'll get to this studio's claims and some other stuff to do with their funding later at the closing of the video, to do any extra work that they might not have wanted to, such as, actually making the game more robust, actually giving us some damn gameplay, some wider areas to explore, and the mechanical tools to explore them with instead of just jogging around an empty linear cell while our character mumbles the same shit over and over again, and maybe something a little more interesting than climbing on top of boxes. Besides this, and moving on to the combat now, there's not much to say here. The 4 skill trees we unlock are, just basic stuff. More health, more space for our food, more guard stamina, extra sword swings to our combos, unlocking a little parry move, and that's about it. The combat never really changes, enemy types remain the same, and so does this philosophy, for lack of a better word, of combating them. You gotta hit these morons until you deplete that little white bar that represents their posture. Then they're staggered, and you can hit them. A few hits takes them out. Initially it's like 2 or 3 hits, later on with heavier armored enemies, it's about 6 or 7. That's really it. Later on in the game they throw more enemies at you, sometimes reaching a near ridiculous point that totally breaks immersion because you got like 10 fully armored, fully grown ass soldier men coming at you with great swords, hammers and polearms, and you just dispatch them with your little sword while the player pretends like this isn't a teenager. There's a couple of trinkets that are pretty good and even change things more in combat than the skills themselves. For example, there's one that makes it so that if you break an enemy's posture, you can take them out in one shot if you do a fully charged attack while they are staggered. The window is a bit short, but if you get it, that obviously saves you a lot of grief against the endgame fully armored enemies. Sadly though, this is still nothing to write home about. It doesn't shake things up enough to make the combat interesting. Throughout the game, I was just dispatching these NPCs, hoping to just move things along. Usually though, when it comes to combat in indie games or small studio games, I don't tend to be too picky because it takes experience for developers to get better at creating good combat systems, and smaller games tend to have other focuses. For example, Vampire by Don't Nod. I love that damn game, and the combat is rough, but I don't really give it too much grief because the whole game is entertaining, and at least I noticed that the devs were trying with various weapons to choose from, light and heavy variants, various powers and abilities to use, actual parrying abilities, ultimate attacks, etc. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is yet another example of laziness, low creativity, and the outright refusal to shake things up. Ain't no reason to not make the combat more fun with a proper parry system, for example. Hell, maybe they could even have a directional one, like the Surge has. If the types of excuse would be, oh, she's untrained, she's not very good, so it would be weird for her to have advanced skills, then screw the excuse. Here's the solution. Don't make the protagonist of your game an inexperienced girl who looks like a little boy, and there you go. Now you don't have limitations anymore, and you can create a great game. Or alternatively, at many points in the game, we find bows. Never mind all the other weapons that we find. Like, fine, if you don't want me to pick up a spear or a greatsword, no problem, I get it. But bows would have been a given for this game to help the obviously much more frail character take out targets from afar, or at least damage them. But instead, nope. You just hit them with your sword. Same combat all the way through, no matter if the threat level is obviously supposed to increase throughout the game as we go from hunting peasants to hunting full-fledged knights. Not a single change to the formula, not even execution moves to spice things up. Nah, son, none of that. It's just smacking piñatas for 8 hours. Of course, if you want to keep the same type of character, you're allowed to. There's many other things that could have been used to spice things up. A great example is the Plague Tale Innocence game, where you're also playing as a girl, looks about the same build as Aeta here, you know, the protagonist. But in that game, there was actually more thought and complexity put into it. The story has you relying more on stealth, traps, alchemical formulas, and the environment to get you through heavily guarded areas where, if your character just went and fought fully armored soldiers in a 1v1 fight, she'd get turned into soap. The boss fights are the worst thing though. See, for the regular enemies, sometimes you can bypass their blocks and you hit them directly, which knocks down their health. We don't see it, but they take damage. So you can rely on, for example, dodging and quick slashing to catch them in a swing. You don't need to, again, the game is very easy, but you can do it to make it even easier for yourself or to get through some encounters faster. Or just to spice things up. Jesus Christ, this game is boring. Bosses though? Nope. You gotta hit them to knock down that white bar twice. Once and you get a little scene with dialogue like, how could you, a woman, be so powerful? You know, some brave and stunning shit like that. And then once more to finish the fight. Except for the last fight, which takes 3 of them. The combat feels so broken, so janky, so laggy, and filled with annoying things such as like this rubber banding type of thing where enemies sometimes whoosh forward during a swing to connect with you, that these fights just end up very unenjoyable. It's basically just a standard enemy but more beefed up. Except for the final boss who fights with a unique weapon. So we covered the exploration and combat. The only thing left to talk about is the third and final element of this game's structure. Puzzles, if you can even call them that. I wouldn't, because this game's idea of puzzles is dragging a box somewhere so you can use it to reach a higher spot. Oh, sometimes the game shakes things up here, fellas. Sometimes you can really see where these developers invested all that grant money. For instance, this part here, there's a wooden beam on top of the box that you have to move. So you can't just drag the box anymore. It's like, oh shit, what the hell do I do now? Man, this game is really testing me here. So you gotta go and crank this wheel so the mill turns and the beam gets knocked down, freeing your box. And fellas, this happens all in real time, like we see the log come down. I was overcome with excitement, basking in the power of the Unreal Engine 5. Anyway, in this other place that's actually nearby to the place that I just showed, you don't have to drag the box all the way to the location. You actually drag it on the water here, and the water is going to carry your box, you know, down to the, down closer to where you gotta carry it. It's really just amazing technological stuff. And then the other thing that's also very you know, it shows detail in the world, you know, it's heavy on the world building, is that, you know, for a box to be able to be moved by water, it needs to be practically empty inside, you know, there needs to be air in the box, you know, it needs to be a very light box, you know what I'm saying? And, but then when you get here and you push the box, she can't fucking push it very far, very well. She's struggling with the box, guys, you know, which is, it's just impressive how the box can float in the water, but we can't push the goddamn box with any vigor. Or maybe it's because we're playing as a woman. Anyway, in this other area, we have to climb up a cliff, and then there's a broken stairway. So we need to lower this cargo elevator platform, then run back down, move the crate onto the elevator, then climb back up and raise the cargo elevator to move the crate into place so we can move forward. But since this game is stupid, you can just lower the cargo elevator down and the box will clip through the bottom of the cargo elevator and then you can just raise the cargo elevator platform and the box is right there as if magic. How about one more for the road, guys? So over here in this instance, the puzzle is evolved, okay? So what you gotta do is, you gotta drag this cart back over here to climb up on this platform, cut the rope from this weight thing so that lowers another platform elsewhere, right? Then, in a sprout of revolutionary game design, you have to grab the same cart. I know, right? Crazy. You gotta grab the same cart and push it back to where it was to climb up to get to the main path. And that's kinda it, guys. You know, no, it never changes. There's never a puzzle with statues that you gotta turn, or a puzzle, you know, that makes you think about something, or a puzzle that uses light or sound or anything more complex than a simple get thing A to put on place B so you can climb onto place C. And sometimes you can't even climb straight in this goddamn game. There were times where I was facing a thing that I had to climb, or maybe just a wall to vault over, and it just wouldn't happen. I had to do it multiple times until finally, I don't know, it triggered and I was able to do it. For such a short game that is super linear, everything could have been play tested perfectly. I don't understand how this happened. You know, this needed way more time in the oven for sure. But this is the kind of game that these developers had on their hands when they decided that they would confidently trash talk another game that is looking far more interesting and intricate than this piece of shit. The fact that these devs decided to speak out like that, you know, wading into controversy when this is what they had in store, is insane. The fact that this is what got outlets like IGN and others to announce it and write about it, while hundreds of fantastic indie games go by with not a single word spoken about them, not a single endorsement or announcement, is unbelievable. The fact that this had a whole behind-the-scenes style bullshit video made with the actresses doing commentary, posted by the PlayStation account itself, is downright staggering, guys. Staggering. But here we are. I guess some quote-unquote indie games are just deserving of more. I guess some independent projects just get luckier than others, huh? Oh boy, do I have some words for the closing of this video. But first, let's talk about the story. Let's get into the real sauce. So, okay, the gameplay sucks, we get it, Des, but games like these are all about story and the journey, right? Right? Well, usually yes, they're supposed to, but EX VOTO fails even in that. As I said earlier, it even fails in being the promised modern audience gay Italian night simulator that it promised to be. It fails in the LGBTQ+ stories buzzword that they're making a video mentioned. Honestly, it fails in everything, even in trying to make its main character likable by doing knightly deeds along the journey. But then again, why should I even be surprised at this? This game was never meant to understand knighthood and give us that kind of a classic tale, even if done in a different way where the knight is a woman who must pose as a man, or even just a woman who is acknowledged as a woman like Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones. This game just kinda wanted the medieval knight aesthetic and label to wear as a badge for LARPing purposes. And for boo-hoo, it's so tough to be a woman in medieval times cringe that pops up in some other scenes, which is always ironic when it's brought up because we literally have civil wars, bandit raids, and even more going on in the background of this game. And who is it always that has to go to war? Men. Who is it that you always fight in this game? Men. And of course the pestilence doesn't choose any genders either. It's almost as if life just sucked in general according to our comfortable modern standards. And so whenever time is taken by these developers to weave a narrative around this kind of thing, rather than build something different, some different types of scenarios that would be much more useful and interesting to flesh out our character or other side characters in this world, I just can't help but roll my eyes. You really are given nothing here. You travel through a completely empty Italy, through rocky ridges and woodland areas with nobody to help, nobody to dialogue with, no outlets whatsoever to show us who Aeta is and what are her moral values besides the constant, "Oh, Bianca, I am coming, I will save you, I took a vow." So you start off frolicking in the woods with Bianca. This is where you learn some small key things. Number 1, the pestilence has taken many people, Aeta's parents included. It also took Bianca's father or stepfather or whatever the hell he was, which brings us to number 2, Bianca hated his guts and expresses how glad she is that he's dead. And she also doesn't like her mother because she has no money nor status, so all that she can do with Bianca apparently is send her away to a monastery so she can learn to become a nun.
Bianca, life in a convent, it's not the end. Your mother wishes
My mother, who has no dowry or prospect, has no other choice than to send me away. But better these holy vestments than marry me to someone like my father. I'm glad the pestilence took him.
Hey, don't say such things. You speak as if you go to thy grave and not a nunnery. It will be safe there, far from all this death.
Life is hard for peasants. For women, nonetheless.
Which she doesn't want to, because she hates literally everything. That's literally all that Bianca is, by the way, throughout the entire story. That's her only characteristic. She hates everything. She cares for nothing, not even our protagonist. In fact, later, she shows resentment for Aeta having been born a noble. Basically, everything is just handed to her, even though, ironically, Aeta lost everything while Bianca still has her mother. By the way, the mother? Don't nobody know what the fuck happened to her. You know, man, I'm getting way ahead of myself here, but you know what, screw it, I'll just say it, we'll go around it instead of in a straight line. The main villain of this stupid-ass game ends up being Bianca. Yeah, I don't know what else to say here either, fellas. It's the stupidest shit I've ever seen. You know, I spent quite some time thinking as I walked around pushing boxes bored out of my skull, what could possibly be the end scenario of the story? I thought to myself, is this as simple as just being able to save her and living happily ever after? The game ending in a kiss or some shit? Or are they going to do some Last of Us kind of thing where she has to die at the end and then it's all just a really bittersweet and tragic lesbian story? Oh man, maybe our character takes her own life too, maybe it'll be like a Romeo and Juliet type of thing, but for the modern audience. And this latter one was the one that I was betting on, but sometimes intrusive thoughts would enter my head like, haha, imagine if they just made the other kid the villain, man, that would be so retarded, and that's it. You know, this idea would come into my head as an intrusive thought type of joke, the type of thing that even feels bad faith to assume because it's like, come on man, you're taking it too far. Just because they're making modern audience games doesn't mean that they have absolute brain-dead morons writing the story, okay? But that's exactly what happened. And it's actually so much worse when I show you how we got here, fellas. In fact, that's the stupidest part because it feels as if the developers made that in a rush. It's very weird. It's almost like a somehow Palpatine Returned type of situation where somehow this weak little blonde girl who looks like she hasn't eaten in 3 days became the leader of a small army. A whole goddamn regiment of fully decked out soldiers and knights who literally have siege weapons, guys. Literally. I'm not being a goddamn TikToker when I say the word literally, okay? I actually mean it in its literal sense, as in Bianca, this weak little soy girl looking ass. She is now the leader of a small army that owns siege weapons and successfully storms castles. I can't even continue anymore, man. I hit a roadblock in my brain. I gotta go take a piss and pat my cat for a second to reset. Sorry, fellas. Hey, take it as a hydration break. We haven't had one of those in a while. Yes, drink the water. Drink the water, my child. Drink the water so you become strong like Papa. Drink the water, my boy. Drink the poop water. Okay, boys, we're back, and it's time to keep pushing forward. So let's get back to that intro and lay out the way that this stupid game built that finale, okay? So, we got two idiots frolicking in the woods. Aera misses her parents. Her father was a knight or something like that and taught her how to fight. Also taught her about honor and stuff. Her mother taught her that she doesn't have to cook if she doesn't want to, you know, happy family stuff, basically. Bianca, on the other hand, hates her mom and whoever her mom was with. She doesn't want to be a nun, is sad and upset about being sent to the monastery, and, you know, oh my god, being a woman is so bad, blah 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 blah, bada bing bada boom, let's get to the point. The attack from the demo happens. Suddenly bells are ringing, red smoke is emerging from the town. She goes in, defeats a bunch of peasant-looking bandits, loads of townspeople are dead, no soldiers around, people lying in the streets, you know, others are locked in their homes, and there's no sign of Bianca or her mother. You get to the top and you find her EX VOTO, which is this religious necklace thing, and you swear a vow to go after the bandits and find the girl because it is your belief that she was kidnapped. After that, when you find that weird noble I mentioned earlier,
you have the demeanor of a milksop babe.
he claims the bandits were his men, before they abandoned him and his house and all that bullshit, you know, so he sends you to go and get him. Makes you swear a new vow to exact revenge on these bandits, but it turned out not to be correct at all. It's just a random group of peasants who abandoned their lord. You leave their leader alive because your character is a dumbass who doesn't think that harming innocent people is that much of a big deal if you're poor. This isn't the only time where this will play out, by the way. Anyway, after that, you keep your search going and you find this freakazoid.
Apologies, mio Salvatore. I was overcome with righteous fury, having seen my brothers hacked down like wheat.
Who are you?
Nessuno. Nobody. A servant of God. I bring his merciful word to those who sin. Your skills with a blade would be most welcome in our task. Come, we shall pray and recover together. There is a villa nearby.
A generous offer. But I swore a vow and must continue on my own quest.
I understand. What is the nature of this vow? Our order of Flagellanti would assist a fellow brother, if you would join us.
I searched for a young woman who was kidnapped by the Briganti and taken north. Bianca is her name.
Why, you were doubly blessed. A woman of that name came to join our order mere days ago. Will you not reconsider my invitation?
You must be speaking of another Bianca. The one I know is headstrong and would not willingly join any holy order.
All women are stubborn and in need of much guidance. The sin of Eve makes all her daughters weak to temptation. But you will see. Follow me.
There are many women not so easily tempted. The Bianca I know is one of them. Your men are killing innocents. It is not your blood being spent.
To build this? All of this? There is no other way.
At what cost?
At any cost.
No. I must decline.
You cannot turn from him. Turn from me. I speak his word and know his will.
Release me. I stay my sword for a holy man, but you test my patience, Padre.
The end of days are here, good knight. Demons roam the hills in the skins of men. The Pope has betrayed Rome, and I am your only hope of salvation now.
I can save myself.
Then go with God, my child. When we meet again, may you see the error of your ways and repent. As will that postulant, and all other such pretenders.
Right off the get-go, you can tell this dude is unhinged, and also he has a special bone to pick with women. Later on, this is confirmed when you find other members of his little religious cult torturing people throughout the countryside. Anyway, you fight through these crazy people called the Flagellanti all the way up to this nice little villa. This is the first time you find Bianca in the game since the intro.
Ayeta. How? I had to
I
fight.
have come to save you. All will be well now. When the Briganti took you, I feared the worst.
I managed to escape them, only to fall foul of these zealots.
Is there a key to these locks?
Their leader has the only key, but I can't leave. Not yet. I might still convince him.
I will find something to break you out of your fetters.
You're not listening to me, Ayeta. I can't leave yet. You cannot break these chains.
But I must get you out of here.
Tonight. Help me to escape tonight. I'm not the only prisoner. It's all or none. Do you understand?
But
the Flagellanti will take me to an abandoned town west of here, where they'll gather all their prisoners. Find me there. At night it will be easier to flee. Together, we can free everyone. You and I.
How? It is too dangerous.
Do
What
as
if
I ask? Quickly, before you're caught. Take the path into the forest to the west. Find me tonight. Trust me.
As thou ask.
So she doesn't want to be saved at this point and makes this whole LARP about wanting you to go meet her elsewhere where they are taking her for a trial. I have so much more to mention here. Like, first of all, where are we exactly at when it comes to her bandit leader nonsense? We know she opened the gates at the start of the game. That was her ticket into this life. So we know she wasn't kidnapped. She intended and planned for their little town to be attacked.
Our town was put to the sword and flame. You left me to die.
It was a steep price. The town was my dowry. To buy into this new life. Opening the gates. Leading them inside. It was a necessary evil.
We'll get to this last scene later, trust me. But right now, I'm just curious as to how she ended up in chains by these zealots. Did she get separated from her group of bandits? Did the group get overwhelmed in combat by these zealots and she was taken alive along with other victims or some shit? Who knows? The game doesn't really specify this and I'm just left guessing. Another thing is, We just waltzed into this place, right? We dispatched dozens of these cultist dudes outside the villa and inside the villa. The entire path up to this little lady's room is in shambles. Just a bunch of zealots face down on the floor. And we're supposed to believe that when their leader dude shows up, the crazy unhinged guy, he's just going to see all this, he's going to shrug it off and resume his plan of holding a trial for her in town? Why would he ignore all his dead homies? I guess, who knows, fellas, the writers didn't really think that far. In fact, you shouldn't really ask many questions here at all. This isn't the type of story where things happen because they make sense. This is the type of brain-dead story where you're presented with something, and then you're presented with something else, and then something else, and the dots aren't meant to connect. You're just supposed to listen to Aeta constantly moaning about how she swore a vow to free Bianca, and then feel sorry for both of them. That's it. And I'm not even being facetious here. I'm serious. The very last mission, when you finally find Bianca, it literally just happens because. It wasn't supposed to happen. It doesn't make any sense that it happens, but it does. Because the writers were just like, okay, and then she's there. What? What do you mean she's there, Robert? Yeah, no, like she's just there. And then the game ends right here in the cool spot, at the castle. But shouldn't we shouldn't we connect it to shouldn't we, no, you just do it, I mean, who cares? They're retarded. We appeal to the modern... We said this is a modern audience game. They don't care about this shit. Now the marketing makes sense. The marketing finally makes sense, guys. You know what? Like when Disney went like, hey, somehow Palpatine returned. That's how we do it. They did it, but we can do it too. Anyway, so the next sequence happens in this town. It's yet another abandoned town, everything is very quiet. Some of their citizens were kidnapped by the cultists while others are hiding in their homes. You find out Bianca actually is not here with the rest of the other victims who apparently are stuck inside of this hole here.
Bianca?
She is not here. They took your friend. I am sorry.
Bianca is instead down in some old ruins of an amphitheater, so you go there and then this scene plays out.
For the end of days is upon us. Our sins have blighted the land, and now we face his divine punishment. The angel of death, a great pestilence, the wrath of God itself. Only through true penance, through fire and scourging, shall we find salvation. Only by cleansing all sin can we join him. Tonight we exact his justice. Tonight this heretic shall repent in fire.
Hold! Cease this travesty!
The prodigal knight returns. Brothers, our Heavenly Father has deigned to grant this young knight the chance to correct their misdeeds for crossing blades with us, to join us, through being the arbiter of his word, by dispensing his judgment. Take it. Deliver her from sin. Fulfill your duty as a knight. See justice done.
This is not justice what you've done. It is ungodly.
This false viper spews poison with every word. Tempted my brothers to turn from his light in avarice.
Who would not offer gold in exchange for their freedom, for their life? If that is a grave sin in your eyes, then we all have erred. We all are damned. Take me in her stead.
You were chivalrous and brave. Came to my aid and matched blades with me. But you were blinded by the foolishness of youth and lust. For the evils of women cannot be redeemed or bartered away. All are laid low by the sin of Eve. No, young man. A knight must serve God. And I, here, am the conduit of his infallible word.
You are not infallible. I am a woman. I have bested you. I have defeated you. You are a false prophet.
You speak untruth.
She is a knight. Look at her. In the eyes of the Lord, she is a truer paragon than this charlatan.
Lies, heresy, and lies. God knoweth the truth, and he is at my side.
Then prove your word before God. Meet me in combat. And let all here bear witness.
Silence! God speaks to me! This is an affront punishable by death. May this false knight be cleansed in the fire as the others.
Listen to him. He calls me serpent, yet see how he twists and slithers. He fears the truth that combat shall test. Let who is right and without sin strike the final blow. Or are you afraid of being defeated by a woman?
Seriously?
Yeah. I will flay the skin from your flesh, burn the tongue from your lying skull. You shall repent before you die, both of you. May the flames cleanse you as you watch her burn.
Oh, no!
My god, this game is terrible, dude. So again, we got the unhinged leader guy losing his mind. Again, please keep in mind that he especially hates women. He sees them as sources of evil, which... I mean, if this game was trying to paint these villains in a bad light, they really did a bad job here specifically, because Bianca is literally a scourge who betrayed and sacrificed hundreds of lives already up to this point, and would go on to actively kill thousands more just because she feels bad for herself. Of course, we don't know that at this point in the game, but honestly, after the end, you know, all this villainous characterization here of this madman because, oh no, he's trying to burn down a poor sweet little young woman. And so, something, the sin of Eve, you know, the seed of Eve, you know, that bullshit that he was talking about. At the end of the day, this guy was just right. He was just being based all along. Bro could have just done what he had to do here, and the game would have ended right here instead of taking us another 2 or 3 hours to get to the actual ending. This man was literally trying to save our lives as gamers. He was looking down upon us and he was going, my brothers, do not waste any more time in this piece of shit. I will end it right here. And I'd love to move on, but there's another thing here that's also very funny to me, which is the way that they made it look like Aeta's little speech was working on the cultists. So let me get this straight. These are unhinged religious zealots, total lunatics, who hate women. But at the same time, a knight who pops up and who reveals herself to be actually a woman, since they somehow couldn't tell before, like, yeah, sure thing, buddy. Bro stood face to face with her before, heard her voice loud and clear, saw her face up close, but somehow still thinks that this is just a noble knight dude because of a stupid bowl cut. I don't know how else to tell the writers this, but this isn't how it works in real life. It's that goddamn obvious that this is a woman, and the only second choice possible beyond that is if this was a little 12-year-old boy. But anyway, so they hate women, and then the knight shows up, reveals himself to actually be a woman, and somehow this starts to cast doubt on the minds of the zealots. Like, suddenly they're thinking twice about it, like, hey, you know what, maybe this woman is right, maybe we should not hit women, you know, I mean, maybe we should hit men instead. Yeah, you know what? I think you got a point on that. I think you got a point on that. Why are we hitting women? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we torturing people as well, you know? Why are we killing people out here? What have we been doing? I think this woman is correct. I think maybe we should... I think what we've been doing is negative. I think what we've been doing is not necessarily, you know, righteous and religious.
Yeah, fellas, I don't even know why I'm here. I kind of just saw a group of people, you know, hanging out together, and I thought, hey, maybe I'll join in as well. I didn't want to be doing any of this murder stuff.
What the f are these writers smoking, man? If a bunch of nutcase religious zealots who hate women and like to gather around at night and burn people alive saw a woman impersonating a knight and trying to guilt trip them about what's holy and what's not only would they not listen to her, they would rush the field and overwhelm the dumbass, you know, and tie her together with Bianca instead of honoring any trial by combat bullshit. It's like these people don't even care about the integrity of their own narrative or to flesh out a faction. Like when you meet the cannibals in The Last of Us 1, like, we don't even do anything here like that. We just throw shit at a wall, see if it sticks, and when it slides off, we keep it in. This is why the story ends up being worse than the gameplay. But anyway, so after a very annoying boss fight, this stupid scene plays. So, I mean, it's just gold. We just lunge towards Bianca, who's supposed to be tied up to a pyre. Suddenly, the pyre just disappears from the equation, and we're just scooping her up as if we were saving her from oncoming traffic. At this point, I don't even care anymore. After this, we notice that Bianca is being helped up by a stranger and walking off. We don't know who it is, all we know is that chaos installed itself in the amphitheater with a group of bandits storming the place and killing the flagellanti, you know, the cultists. Now, in hindsight, we can guess that they were there to save Bianca, but this kinda just raises more questions. For example, was she already that high a rank within the bandit group that they would come and save her? They wouldn't save her for like ransoming or anything like that because she doesn't have anyone. No family, no dowry, no nothing. At this point, it had only been around a month or so since the start of the game, so how did she rank up so fast? And why didn't she tell them to also bring Aeta? It's her friend, her lover lady. I mean, she wanted to be together with her, right? That's what it's implied at the end, you know, I'll show you guys when we get there. She ends up asking Aeta to join her and her, you know, her army on her conquest to own the patriarchy. I'll show you all this later, guys, okay? You guys gotta take it easy, okay? Hold it up there, fellas. Be patient, because I had to put myself through this. I gotta build up to it, you know what I mean? None of these questions are ever answered, none of it ended up mattering, and now is when things get stupid. If things have been stupid so far for you already, oh, get ready, because we're about to get even stupider. We get a big time skip at this point. It's been months since the last mission. We were rescued by this old knight fella, who's one of the people that we rescued from the cultists. He brings us over to his place and takes care of us until we're back in shape. There's no telling what else happened because we also got a haircut and now extra armor pieces. Also, it's been 10 months, I don't think we were out of commission for that long. Got a whole new outfit, but it's very similar to the other one. No idea if we have been side questing around to earn these things or not. No idea if he just gave it to us. None of this shit matters either. The game doesn't care about any of this crap or any of the setting or any of the characters. In fact, we don't even know this old man's name. We don't know any names about anyone in this story. There's only 2 names in this game. It's Bianca and Aeta, that's it. And no other names you guys gotta learn, not even if you're Saber, because this was rushed out the door before it was even ready. I've seen solo developers put more work into fleshing out their games with zero help from any grants than this team of 15 supposed industry veterans, as they call themselves, but we'll get to that whole thing about the studio later. Something very important to understand here, fellas, is that we are no longer actively searching for Bianca. We were saved by this guy and brought to this place here. We then prepared ourselves, whatever That means it's just a throwaway line, and after seeing the red smoke rising from a nearby town, we pledged a new vow to go over there and put a stop to the ongoing attack from these weird bandits who keep invading little places with red smoke. Just like our town at the beginning of the game. That's basically all there is here. She's still on the lookout for Bianca, she hasn't given up on her quest to find her, apparently. I mean, I don't know how the f she's supposed to even have a clue of where she went anymore, but that doesn't matter. Why are you guys asking questions? They don't flash anything out. Stop asking me these questions, guys. Jesus. What am I, a reviewer? The point that I'm trying to get you guys to take away from this, that's going to play on to the stupidity later, is that while she's still looking for Bianca, in spirit, what she's about to do right now, going after this red smoke stuff, is basically a side quest. She sees this town being attacked in the distance, that notorious red smoke is, coming up into the sky, and she decides to go and be a knight and stop it, which is actually the first time in the game that she actually does a knightly thing, where you kind of set your own personal goal aside to go and stop evil. Anywho, please watch this scene as it is important to establish this.
Wherever you are, I shall find you, Bianca. But I cannot turn away and watch another town burn.
Alright, there we go. I just wanted you guys to be fully aware that we're not here for Bianca, this is a side quest. Now, lots of combat in this area. I kind of wish that I could show you more of it because all of it acts as environmental storytelling to how insanely bonkers the story has gotten. Because this little army, it's even weird calling it a little army because it's laying siege to that town and winning, is Bianca's army. This is what that group of bandits has grown into in the past few months. They grew into a whole-ass, fully decked out, fully stocked army that is so strong and capable that they are laying sieges to castles now and being successful. In fact, after we're done taking out their siege weapons in this level, we get to move forward to the next area, which is a castle that they took over, and they even have a war room with pieces laid out on a table and all that of future planned attacks. This has become a conquest army. And this is where, when we fight through all of these armored enemies, hundreds of them in these two missions, we come to a head. Time to finally face the big bad villain, the big commander that raided Aeta's town way back at the start of the game, the big bad villain who kidnapped Bianca and eventually lost her to a group of nutcase cultists in the woods, supposedly of course. The absolute Omega Chad Chungus that put together this ultimate formidable force that is laying waste to the Italian countryside. And when we open the door to the boss room, this plays.
I hoped you would come.
Why? Why all of this?
You ask why? Do you not see? Standing there a knight at last, as you always wished. My dear, sweet Aeta.
I shall not be swayed by your honeyed words. I have come to end this.
But we have just begun. The old world is ending. The wars, the pestilence. This is our time, our only chance to build a new world from the ashes. One where we are no longer bound by birthright. Where we can finally decide our own fate. We can be free. Both of us. Together.
At what cost?
At any cost. To build this, all of this, there is no other way.
Your men are killing innocents. It is not your blood being spent.
So that's why you've come. To make me pay the price.
I have come, so no more innocents will suffer.
It was Bianca all along, fellas! This pipsqueak nobody is the leader of this great army of doom. How? Who knows? How did she rise up the ranks? Who knows? How did she not get deposed already by one of the other guys? Who knows? Well, actually we do know that. She's a badass, of course. She's had a few months of practice and is now the greatest swordswoman the world has ever seen. She's better than any man, and if you doubt that, then you need to stop being such a chud. But jokes aside, it's so ironic when 90% of this moron's dialogue throughout the game is whining about the condition of her life and the condition of the world she lives in, how difficult, how terrible, and how unjust it is to be a woman in this world, but at the same time, this is the same world that has allowed her to be placed at the top of a small army force? What, are you shitting me? Can you pick a lane here? Can you pick a struggle? Because this is just a goddamn meme at this point. I mean, I say small, but realistically it's much bigger than that. It's an army with siege weapons that is capable of defeating an entire town and capture their big-ass castle. What were these riders smoking, dude?
Get out of here, Dewey.
What are y'all doing in here?
We're smoking reefer, and you don't want no part of this shit.
This is the shit that I can't stand the most in these games lately. It's why I have thought of going back and playing, for example, Unknown 9 Awakening and Dustborn, to do an analysis on them, have a little bit of fun, but at the same time, I cringe away from it because of how bad it's going to be. Because I can't stand this kind of thing. Not even because of the subject matter. I think you can work this type of subject matter into a story and still make it fit, especially in RPGs where world building enrichment is so important. But what I detest is when developers want to have their cake and eat it too. On one hand, the world is meant to be hell on earth for women. It's meant to be an awful place, an unfair place, so unfair and so awful that this dumb doesn't even have any other choice than to become Vlad the Impaler. Poor women, such victims of such a harsh world, such a harsh place. But oh wait, because also no, she's not a victim. She'll never allow herself to be a victim. She's actually an ultra-based gigachad who chose that women can do it too. They can be as strong, they can be as cunning, and they can even rise to be leaders of a great army. Like seriously, can we stop huffing paint and pick a goddamn lane? This is embarrassing in a game like this where the writing and the story, the world building that we're playing through is meant to make sense so that it makes up for the stale and lifeless game and combat. So anyway, as you heard in that last cutscene, this idiot solution to this unfair world is to create a new one where they are no longer bound by the same customs and traditions, the patriarchal foundation of the previous one. And the way to achieve that, fellas, is by wasting thousands of innocent lives. Throughout this game you see this happen time and time again, since that first attack on your own town. But even in the last few missions you can see it while she's the one unequivocally leading them that the story is the same. The bandit raiders are laying little homes, mills, farmhouses, and so much more to the goddamn sword. Aeta even comments on one of them, wondering what kind of a leader could this group have.
Like the Flagellanti. No, greed and desire guides their hands, not the sway of a charismatic leader. What could justify this?
To quote the retard-in-chief, to build this, all of this, there is no other way. Guys, I'm telling you, man, I don't know how the modern audience isn't up in arms on Blue Sky trying to cancel the studio for the utter piece of crap game that they made for them, because holy shit, I've seen better villains written on children's cartoons. The writing in this makes Rogue Warrior look like an award-winning Steven Spielberg movie. This is brain-dead levels of cliché, dude. It's like they looked at the shittiest, stupidest villains ever portrayed in media and said, challenge accepted. It's not only how comically evil and stupid this sounds, it's the fact that it's coming from Bianca. It's coming from the love interest. Somehow this childhood friend was actually secretly Dr. Evil. But we ain't even done yet. There's a couple more scenes that happen during the fight and then an even stupider finale scene. Before that though, check out what happened to me when the scene ended. Boss fight starts, and this loser is not moving. Also, the music just got nuked. Then I also realized that depending on where I was standing, her health bar would pop up and the music would start playing. But as soon as I took a step forward, the music and the health bar disappeared again. Absolute cinema, man. This is the game these people felt was strong enough to go and attack another game on social media for. They looked at this piece of shit of theirs and genuinely thought that, oh yeah dude, our game is definitely a culture war winning game right here. This game will be the game that avenges all the other flops. Everyone will look at this piece of pigeon shit and go, what now, chuds? Anyway, let's go to the first combat cutscene.
What do you hope to gain?
Truth. Our town was put to the sword and flame. You left me to die.
It was a steep price. The town was my dowry. To buy into this new life.
Literally dead eyes, dude. I've seen more emotion coming from a Sydney Sweeney Jeans commercial. This game has seriously re-evaluated how much talent points I attributed to Jennifer English due to her performance in the past. The game has been painful to get through, and the acting from both of these characters has only contributed to that. Only one dude killed it here. It was the crazy cultist guy. The crazy noble dude and the old man were fine, but there was too little footage of them to make a judgment.
The ninth circle of hell is reserved for traitors. Our common foe were once my own vassals. I protected them, as is my duty, as my father did, and his father before him. Only for them to break this trust, to abandon this place, stealing all that they could carry. Pestilence, pestilence, they cried. What a feeble excuse for betrayal.
Everyone else just sounds and looks like they're bored out of their skulls.
To buy into this new life. Opening the gates. Leading them inside. It was a necessary evil.
It was necessary, guys! Putting the whole town I grew up to the sword was necessary, fell. It just is what it is. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. By the way, her own mother was in that town, but hey, it's just sometimes, guys, you just gotta do it, you know? The mother, her friends, Aeta's friends, the milkman, the baker, the cobbler, the armorer, the milk maidens, the innkeeper, the what's the name of the dudes with the bees? The apiarist, the good doctor, the priest, the nuns, the teachers, the magister, f***ing Nazim, everybody. They all had to go, guys. You don't get it. It had to be done. There was literally no other choice.
But I made certain you were spared. That you were far from harm that day.
You planned everything. Betrayed. Everyone.
It was fine for you. You who have only ever seen what you wanted, heard what you wanted from inside your gilded cage.
Oh man, it's your fault now. Now it's all your fault for having everything. I had to take the lives of innocents because you were better off than me. You had more bread on the table, so I had to, you know, put the torch to a couple of towns. Oh my god, guys, holy shit, who wrote this? Who wrote this? You know what, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. I would rather not know. Just please never do it again. You see why it's so annoying to have zero context about these characters for so long? We're given the impression that they grew up together, so despite Aeta being the daughter of a noble, they were still friends. It's not like she shunned Bianca, and it's not like Bianca was some raggedy-ass poor fuck living under a bridge. She was taken care of, she looked well dressed too, but now we're supposed to believe that these pre-assumptions the story gave us are wrong, and actually Bianca grew up like Bane from the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. She grew up inside a dark pit of violence, disease, and despair. We merely adopted the darkness, but Bianca, oh no. She was born in it, molded by it. By the time she had tasted fresh air, clean clothes, a friend to play with, and the taste of bread, she was already a grown woman whose eyes are so far apart they have different zip codes.
I had no such fortune. As a low-born woman, as a peasant, I was treated like chattel.
So fucking boring!
There can be no change without sacrifice. Without suffering. Power can only come from strength. Look at you. With this freedom we've claimed, your own path has led you to become a knight.
That is not strength. It is cruelty. I hear your pain. But how can any of this be fair and just, founded on the blood of innocence? Bianca, there must be another way. Leave all of this. Just come with me.
Straight from one of your tales. You are naive, Aeta. Most of us aren't born into power. I won't let you take it from me.
You can really tell that these developers thought that they were cooking with this Bianca character and this whole switch. You know, the whole heel turn where now she's the villain because, oh man, all this hardship stuff. And then they have her drop that hot fire. Not all of us are born into power. You can just tell that they thought that they were cooking with this, but it's just the stupidest shit I've ever heard. I thought this game would just be a boring one-time thing that would kinda come and go and be forgettable, but it's not. It's so much more. This is unequivocally top 10 shittiest video games of 2026 material. Next scene, after defeating yet another health bar, is this.
Give up this foolish struggle! Even now, I would forgive your betrayals. Of the others. Of me.
What, are you retarded? So I know you're not retarded. But, what are you, Down syndrome?
Of us. Did it mean so little?
I was overlooked. Underestimated. Even by you. I was never a fool. While you dreamt of tales of Arthur and Lancelot, while your father indulged your swordplay, I had to claw my way up. Out of the mud.
See, I told you guys she's Bane from the Dark Knight trilogy. While she was learning swordplay from her father, Bianca was clawing her way out of the pit. Also, if you haven't noticed by now, the subtitles in this game are broken. When the line of dialogue is too big that it requires 2 lines, the incredible industry veteran programmers couldn't figure out how to do the subtitles properly, so they just overlap one another, resulting in you not being able to read a goddamn thing that it says. So in other words, bros couldn't even get subtitles right.
We could do it together.
Not in this world. I have carved my own path. and I shall not give it up. Even for you.
That's the end of the last mid-combat cutscene. The next one is the big finale, and man, at this point I was laughing so hard that I lost the fight, so I had to start over. It's just so funny how much of a bitch Bianca is in a video game that was supposed to be about, you know, LGBTQ plus gay knights in Italy, like a relationship between two girls. Not only do we never get any bonding moments between these two, but we also never get any romance scene between the two, and by the end, the revelation is that Bianca had always hated this woman. She spent her entire life resenting her for what she had, despite her being not just her friend, but her implied romantic partner at some point. And this is gold because on one hand, it's more inconsistencies where it's like, oh okay, now I understand why Bianca didn't tell her men to also rescue Aeta after the whole Flagellanti arc. But at the same time, I don't understand why she bothered with leaving Aeta out of the town when leading the bandits into it. I guess Bianca didn't hate her enough to want her dead, she just, you know, hated her enough to have her abandoned with all of her friends dead, her city sacked, and her home burned to the ground after having lost her parents. Man, with lesbian friends like these, who needs enemies, am I right fellas? But on the other hand, it also had me thinking, man, were we deceived? Is this actually a super-based game with authentic writing, depicting gay relationships in a bad light? Is this a secret chud game? Was this made by like John De La Rose or John F. Trent or George Torch on Twitter? But we were all just fooled by the... Yeah, nah, I was just joking guys. Just a really bad game with even worse storytelling and no self-awareness. Speeding forward towards the final scene, here's what happens after the two girls are done playing with their swords.
I heeded your last lesson well. All those months ago. And this madness. No matter how far we have fallen, we still remain. But at what cost to us?
What choice did I have? I had nothing. Would sacrifice everything.
This world has been unfair and cruel to you. I fear the price of all this for you and me is too high.
Very well. Oh, my noble Aeta. Would thou aid this damsel to rise?
Wow, that was unhinged. I'm so tired of the terrible writing we have to endure from these types of weirdos, man. Here's the sauce, okay fellas? Here's why this bothers me. Villains being unhinged in media is a normal thing. It's been this way since forever. Crazy ones with rotten morals like Bianca, who places zero value in human life, especially the lives of innocents, are very common in media and very fun to use every now and then in some stories. But usually in these stories, this is contrasted by the hero. You usually have the unhinged villain going off in all manner of crazy monologues, but then you'll have the protagonist, the Giga Chad or whatever, who defeats the evil, looking at the villain, talking mad shit and disregarding every single damn thing that they say before chopping their nuts off and feeding them into a wood chipper. This is just how it usually is. And that's why in some simple stories they work and are fun sometimes. That's how you know that the crazy villain the writers created is just intended to be taken as exactly that, a lunatic. And at the end, the morality or the message or the point or whatever you want to call it, is just that the hero defeats the evil and exacts justice. But in this game we don't get that. In this game we have a lunatic lunatic on our hands, but in place of the GigaChat protagonist who defeats evil, we have a retard who takes pity and acknowledges the villain's grievances as somehow excusable. Not justifiable enough to let her go, well actually I mean, scratch that, she was going to let her go if Bianca put the weapon down, so never mind. It is just as bad as that actually, that's it, that's our hero here, and that's the message of our story. While it sucks that thousands of innocent lives were yoinked for literally no reason whatsoever, really no reason, there was no reason at all to attack innocent villages and hamlets. If she had a problem with the patriarchal power structure, go to the patriarch, right? Go to the king and take it up with him. But no, she went raiding and burning innocent settlements, and then they used this excuse, which I don't even know if it's the character being stupid or if it's the writers being stupid, but regardless. So while it sucks that thousands of innocent lives were wiped, we still have this moron and this stupid notion of seeing the other side, of feeling pity, of validating. The modern audience types love this word, don't they? Validating her unhinged, broken thoughts and mentally ill whims that brought her to commit the atrocities in the first place. And this is just cringe. It's totally ill-fitting of A Knight's Tale. You don't take pity on a monster, you slay it. You don't listen to the dragon and empathize with why he burned down a city, you slay the dragon. That's what these kinds of Knight Tales are usually about. You can even go to Game of Thrones, which threw away the usual fantasy shit out the window to subvert things a little bit more and show a more brutal reality of these medieval games of power. For example, in Season 1, we all love Ned Stark, we all believe him to be the hero. If there was one character that would serve as the knight in a Knight's Tale type of thing of stopping evil or whatever within Game of Thrones, Ned Stark would have been it in that first season, and instead of a dragon, it maybe would have been a lion. But of course that doesn't happen. He gets outplayed and his head rolls off before Season 1 is even over. But even then, in stories like these that don't usually want to do the classic Knight's Tale type of thing, you still have a sense of what is good and what is evil. You have a sense of what is fair and what is unjust. It's just that the right thing doesn't always happen, but it doesn't stop it from still being the thing that everyone acknowledges as the right thing. But writers like these, who make this god-awful story, have their moral compasses so utterly broken that they think that they can present such a vile character and have the room to fit in empathy and tolerance into the mix for what the character is feeling or for what drove the character's actions. This is pure delusion, and it breaks so many stories, and I wish we would see much less of it. I wish higher-ups in the industry would understand just how batshit insane these narratives are to 99% of the planet, because this is exactly what happens with these smaller games that certain consultants, like Sweet Baby Inc., get hired to meddle with, and of course also with bigger games. The major example that comes to mind being Soy Squad Killed the Justice League from 2 years ago, and the absolutely abysmal treatment of the hero characters in that game, especially of Batman. That's a game that forgot what it's supposed to do. It forgot that as a game where you play as anti-heroes, you're meant to be having fun, not meant to be distributing morality lessons, especially on the beloved heroes we enjoy with batshit insane narratives that don't make any sense and therefore are not satisfying for the players. We had a Harley Quinn vagina monologue about how unfair Batman has treated her and Joker. Meanwhile, they were killing people. What? Did I get transported into an alternate dimension where this dumb shit is supposed to make sense? Where it's supposed to make me go, oh hell yeah, now this game right here is a cool game. Now that's a satisfying narrative right there. I don't want to get more hung up on this point, but just as an aside, I absolutely had to do it here because it just happens way too often these days on some of our stories. Not just in gaming, but across media in general. Completely out of touch writers, dude. I don't understand. Like, no, she did not endure any such hardship that would even come close to rationalizing any of the things that Bianca did, let alone justify it or excuse it. That's not a moment in a scene for our character to be understanding her side and considering to pardon her and just let it all go. This is the moment to throw her off the cliff. What is this Willie Nelson poor me bullshit? As Franklin from GTA 5 would say,
oh, what is this? Pick on me day? Look, I know I'm a miserable old prick, but give me a break. You and Lester. Shit.
So the plan was feeling sorry for your ass, right? I miss Lester saying that shit, but sure, let's feel sorry for Michael. Rich, white Michael, poor Michael, who robbed banks for 10 years, then got his slate wiped clean.
Yeah.
Poor Michaels, whose homies get into shit with the FIB out of the kindness of their own hearts. Put their necks on the line. Man, where's my get out of jail free card, mother?
I'm sorry, okay?
You know what, Mike? You a real easy dude to identify with, man. Poor me. Poor me. Man, pour me a drink.
Okay, I can see. Maybe I've been a little caught up in myself lately.
See that? That's how you handle scenes like those. It doesn't mean that you can have your characters express ridiculous notions of morals or whatever, it just means that you have to check them with reality. Anyway, that's it, that's how the game ends. And at that point, you can press the button on screen, which implies that Dumb and Dumber over there helps her get up, just like at the beginning of the game where she pulls a knife on her to teach her a life lesson. Or you can do nothing and wait it out. I waited it out thinking that maybe there would be a secret ending, but the ending is exactly the same. Whether you click the button or not, this is what happens. So the camera moves away and we hear a stab sound, and that's it. Roll the credits to the shittiest game of 2026, or at least so far, I mean, you never know. Now let's go ahead and close this video off with a conclusion and a bit about the studio. So to close this off, I just wanted to flesh out a couple of things I mentioned before in passing. Number one, earlier on I mentioned emotional manipulation, that they could have used at the very least to make people care. This is basic stuff that we can find in many video games. Dragon Age Veilguard had a whole bunch of it just to mask its lack of depth. Usually these smaller games that aren't very technically impressive have a big focus on story and the characters, and they tend to use these devices to easily extract emotion from people, usually from things that are relatable on a human level, like the death of a loved one or showing someone suffering injustice, stuff like that, usually coupled with good music and directing. The reason why I call it manipulation might sound negative, but I only do it because in some cases, like Veilguard, they're literally used as a lazy shortcut. In this game, we didn't even have those lazy shortcuts, dude. Like, this is really bad, and it generally kills any interest that I may have had for any future projects out of a new studio. The only thing that this has that I see effort on is the environment. Again, it's undeniable that the artist did a good job using the Unreal Engine 5 to its fullest to draw out beauty for people to look at along the journey. And it was really this game's only saving grace, and I mean, it's not even a saving grace, like, make no mistake, I do not recommend you spend money on this, but you do you. Number 2, about the studio having 15 industry veterans. This comes from their own page on their website, but looking at them one by one feels a bit misleading. I went through the LinkedIn pages of the ones that had them listed, and only a couple of them have what people could maybe understand as industry veteran status. Those words imply that you were someone who worked in the industry, as in the big studios and publishers out there, the big games, and of course for quite a while, because that's what veteran also implies. Usually this is even understood as people that held major positions and helped make big known games. Usually that's what comes to mind when you say that a new independent studio was started with industry veterans. Instead, what we have here is a couple of them with ties to Ubisoft and Call of Duty, but most of them have nothing recognizable. I think it might refer to some of those no-name studios that are at times outsourced work to. It's a common practice in the industry, but they usually don't get any, recognition. Anyway, this isn't meant to be a dig, it just feels important to mention because of what the expression industry veteran tends to mean. It implies a degree of quality, recognition, and trust. But that's just not the case here. Next up, let's talk about the funding situation. So this was this studio's first game, and there's been some buzz online that it was funded through governmental grants in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least partially funded. In other words, the taxpayer funding the game and so on. Now, of course, there's also been a lot of comments about DEI and ESG type of shenanigans tied to it. Basically, programs that push this kind of thing and fund it because they value this game more than a random, truly independent game developer making games without social messaging. Which, to be fair, does exist. We have seen this happen before with Dustborn. However, for now, we don't know that for sure when it comes to EX VOTO. Like, Dustborn actually had a thing that was discovered by someone who, sadly, I don't know who it is. It was before the time that I started making videos, so I didn't pick this up from the source. But anyway, as I was saying, Dustborn actually had a thing laying out that the funding was for projects that pushed specific socio-political agendas. Currently, as far as I know, no specific connection of that kind exists for EX VOTO as of yet, so it might also just be investments by the state to try and incentivize game development in the country. My own country also does that, even though sadly it hasn't borne much fruit. With that said, I'm not saying corruption is impossible, of course. Corruption and favoritism, where certain people who have the correct politics or are making projects with brave and stunning concepts getting moved up the line and put in front of people who don't check those boxes. Like, trust me, I know, I live in a country steeped in corruption and in that kind of favoritism, and at the end of the day, this is the games industry. Still, only speculation for now though. At least as far as I know as of the scripting and recording of this video, but if more developments have come out since then, do let me know in the comments. Oh, and by the way, the person who uncovered the government grant thing for EX VOTO was SmashJT, which is another content creator who also runs his own independent gaming and culture news website. He already had other outlets writing about it, and Kotaku even went full guns blazing defending the studio and attacking this narrative for being like conspiratorial or whatever, you know, digging up things. This is basically because official news outlets don't give two rat's ass about games journalism, they only care about protecting their own. In their mind, if an agenda-driven indie studio gets ahead of a non-agenda indie studio, that's all good for them. In fact, that's what they want. But I don't like that. It's a pet peeve, that's why I brought it up a couple of times as a point of frustration in this breakdown. Regardless of whether or not this funding was politically motivated, or just a totally innocent and standard grant to incentivize game development to grow in Italy, it's still bullshit that these people pop up, pose as an indie studio, coming out with their own indie game, and despite receiving government help in making it, this is the level of effort that they put into it. I'm sorry, again, it's just a big pet peeve of mine, because it immediately makes me think of how that money could have gone to someone who would have been able to make something proper with it. In the previous video I made surrounding the demo, I praised these people for one main thing, the fact that this was their own original work. It wasn't a consultant taking some established franchise and turning it into shit, it wasn't some new team of assholes hijacking a sequel to a beloved franchise and changing the characters and the stories to make garbage nobody wanted. It was developers making their own game with their own money on the line, and I respect that, even if the game they're making sucks and they want to go down the road of awful looking female knights frolicking in the woods and then one of them goes on a murder rampage because she couldn't afford the latest Louis Vuitton bag. But if more of these stories of external funding pop up, then I'm going to be completely removing that small bit of praise from the equation and chalking this game up as just yet another failure from out-of-touch developers using money that could have gone to other people to fund ideological garbage into the indie market, which is something that I'm still suspicious of. It's still very weird to me that IGN and other outlets got on this game's ass, promoting it all over the place, and it even got a trailer posted by PlayStation. I'm not a boycotter type of person, you know, I'm not a reporter type of guy, I'm not a forbidder, you know, like I'm not going to sit here like, remove these funding programs. I don't even agree with that, I think they should exist. But at the end of the day, I am one hell of an annoying complainer, so I will be keeping my eyes on this type of shit going forward. I mean, god damn man, $600,000 for this shit? Italy may as well have used that money on Big Macs and just hand them off to homeless people or something. But anyway, that's it from me on this one, fellas. Thank you all very much for watching. If you made it all the way here and enjoyed the video, please vow to drop a like so I can afford some ibuprofen. I'm going to need it. Also, why not subscribe if you're new? It's free. Either way, fellas, I got a headache, so I gotta get going now. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you on the next one.